stories of Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be your Chickasaw native, your Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco. And when you talk about a business that had an Olympic gold medalist in it, world's strongest man, UFC champions, to say that this man could be the greatest athlete in the history of this business, to even be in that talk is an amazing statement, but he is every single bit of it. JUCO 100-meter champion, national champion, JUCO wrestling champion, collegiate All-American 2 times, Shelton Benjamin, Coach Brock Lesnar, one of the best guys in the business. Unfortunately, now he found out what happens when me and Ron always said, I hope Shelton never starts working out because that boy's going to be big. And that man is huge right now, Mr. Shelton Benjamin. Shelton, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, JBL. And that was a hell of an introduction. And it's all true. It's all true.
Last time I saw you, I took a picture of you and I sent it to Ron. I said, look how big this man is. And Ron goes, oh my God. Oh my God.
I think I got too big for the locker room. Like I literally felt sometimes like a giant walking through there. Like until guys like Omar showed up, I felt like I was the gotten so much bigger than what they had originally had me when they originally had me. Like so. But all I do is sit around and work out all day. So what else I'm going to do?
Shelton, where are you coming from today? You're in your home in Houston, Texas.
I'm at home in Houston.
Behind you there. That's a neat setup there. You tried to blur it out so you'd look a little bit modest, man. But we like the bling behind you there. What all you got there? A couple of championships.
I have basically not every, but almost every pro wrestling title I've won. The Intercontinental Championship, the United States Championship, the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, the Raw Tag Team Championships, the ROH Tag Team Championships, and the WWC Heavyweight Championship down in Puerto Rico, for those who aren't familiar.
Wow, that trophy on top, is that from Japan? Because I know they used to give those big trophies over back in the day.
No. That trophy on top, that's actually an action figure. That's my
an action figure.
Yeah, I'm a big kid. You know this, Gary. So that's actually, this is actually. I'll jump up and show you real quick. It's actually 2. That's my Iron Man.
Oh, all right.
And I'm sorry, this big one. Oh,
that's the one I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually my Hulk Buster. Like this thing is. You could take someone's head off with this thing. It's so big and heavy, and that figure actually fits inside this figure. So this is one of my.
Yeah, it must be heavy because when you picked it up, your biceps got 2 inches bigger.
I told you.
You're right, John. He's a beast now. Look at him.
I'm just a big kid. I'm just a big kid.
Speaking of being a big kid, Orangeburg, South Carolina, right in between Charleston, South Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina. I used to pass by there weekly on my way to one of those 2 markets over there to be a professional wrestler. Sheldon, I know from knowing you for so long, and knowing the guy who taught you everything you know about amateur wrestling would be the great coach Jay Robinson, who was a teammate of mine, by the way. So all your talent is Oklahoma related.
Don't even try to get credit for it.
He's been trying to give Oklahoma credit for the Minnesota successes for decades now.
Well, what do you mean trying to? It's obvious. They never were successful before Jay come in. Then all of a sudden, you guys won a massive amount of national championships thanks to my own teammate Jay. And speaking, but you came like JBL, you were a JC champion before you arrived at Minnesota. That's something that Jay was always great at. He picked you and he picked Brock out of the JC ranks and brought them into Minnesota. He has an eye for talent, just like I did when I recruited you for the WWE. But before then, going back to Orangeburg, South Carolina, you were a multi-sports star, but you're also a little bit of problem to your mom growing up there. You want to go into a little bit of your athletic background and your influences that you had growing up?
Yeah. So the simple story, I'm one of 4 kids. I'm the number 2 oldest boy, 2 sisters, 1 brother. And Yeah, I was raised in a single parent home. I had a very strict mom, like, an old school ass whipping mom. You step out
Good.
of line, you got it. Um,
You got it
but I was,
quite often too, right?
oh yeah. I, all I'm gonna say, my mom had amazing cardio due to all the whipping we were getting.
That's a good way to put it.
but but yeah, and just like everyone in our situation, every young kid trying to grow up in a area that, there was crime, there was murders, there was drug stuff, like, and honestly, I tell people it's the very typical Black American story, inner city Black, single parent, all these negative influence around me, and so I got in trouble a lot. Me and I don't call them gangs because it was more me and certain family members. We ran together, and for me, it was more of a thing of protection because I was always a big kid, so people always picked on me because I was bigger, so they thought I was older. So it was just fun to poke at me. So a lot of what I did was basically me, just like any kid who joins a gang for protection, for friendship, for for acceptance. I was kind of involved with that, but it was mostly family members I was doing this with. So sports came along when I was in eighth grade. I started playing football as a running back, and I excelled. Went to high school, and I continued playing football, but I also continued hanging out with with all my negative influences. So my freshman year, it was nothing special. I played football. It was nothing special. Um, I kept getting in trouble. As a matter of fact, I was in a big gang fight the very last day of school, my freshman year in high school, which means I got suspended for the very first 2 weeks
Yeah.
of
I was
my
going to bring
sophomore.
that up. That almost prevented you from going on, right?
Oh, at one point, my mom put me in Job Corps because she was worried I was just getting in so much trouble. In the eighth grade, I had some issues with some guys, and I used to, believe it or not, I'm not proud of this at all, but I would carry a gun to school in the eighth grade for protection.
Wow.
Wow.
So, but it was, again, it was more for protection. I got suspended for that, mainly because I let one of my friends see the gun, and of course, my dumb friends.
Yeah.
Uh so 10th grade, that's when I was playing football, and the wrestling coach, who was also our linebacker coach on the football team, his name was Coach Riley Jackson. He asked me to come join the wrestling team, and I wasn't into it because when I did my research, I'm a pro wrestling fan. Like, I grew up I can't remember a time when I did not watch pro wrestling. So when he wanted me to join the team, my first thought was, well, okay, where are the ropes? Where's the ring? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking about this, and then around the time I think John Smith had just won the Olympics or something like that, so his name was everywhere. Even though I wasn't well versed in amateur wrestling, that name I would see all the time: John Smith, John Smith, John Smith. But long story short, my coach basically, after a football practice, asked me if I wanted to ride home. Now, my house is walking distance. I would walk to school. And I was like, sure, why not, coach? I'll take a ride. He drove me straight to wrestling practice, and basically that's how my wrestling career began. I
He
was
kidnapped
kidnapped into the wrestling. He kidnapped
He kidnapped you.
me. But he was
Hey, so what when you got there, you go, oh, come on. You had to be hot.
well, of course, like, because here's the thing: immediately leaving the high school, he took a right when he should have took a left to take me home, and I was like, "Coach, where are we going?" He's like, "Oh, we're just gonna run over." He didn't even say we are going to practice. Oh, I just got to run over to at the time of school called Belleville real quick. There was one of the middle schools where we had practice in their gyms. And we get there, and the team's there and everything. And I was like, this mother. So he's like, just try it. So I started trying it, and met the team, and I knew a lot of the guys
Did
already.
they have some pretty decent big boys out for wrestling at the time, or?
No,
No, well, that's the reason they made that drive with you.
So there was one other guy. His name was Paul West, good friend of mine, great guy. And Paul was a kid. He was a fat kid in middle school and part of high school, and then he started lifting weights, and he turned into like basically one of the strongest people I've ever known. Like he got jacked, and he was breaking records, bench press records all over the state. But he was actually out for wrestling too, and both of us, they wanted him to be the heavyweight because the weight class was 189 and 275. Those are too heavy. I weighed about 200 pounds, and Paul weighed well over 250.
Wow.
So the natural thing was, okay, Shelton cut weight, and Paul would be the heavyweight. And I said, if I got to starve, I'm not doing this. Like, there's no, I'm not cutting weight. So my coach and the assistant coach, Dave Wilson, they basically made a decision to leave me at heavyweight after I entered I did a tournament, and I didn't win it. I just think I did really good against the heavyweights, and Dave was just like, I don't see why we don't just leave him there. Especially considering, for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly, Paul had to leave the team. So then, yeah, my 10th grade, I was the heavyweight. I think I lost 9 matches my first year wrestling. I can't remember exactly how many matches, but I lost 9. By the time I left high school, I'd only lost 11 total matches.
Wow.
So yeah, I went on state champ at heavyweight twice, All-American. And I also, immediately after track season, to stay busy, because I figured out, hey, if I'm on a team, I can travel, because, we were poor. So most of the time it was like, either I'm somewhere getting in trouble or I'm at home where my strict mom wouldn't let me do much of anything. But I was like, okay, if I keep joining these sports teams throughout the year, well, I'm always traveling all over the state. So for the next 30 years, I never had an off season.
Wow.
So people were like, a lot of people ask me, do I work out a lot and things like that? And it's like, yes, but at the same time, I just never had an off season since I was in the 10th grade. Like, I went straight from football, wrestling, track, freestyle, football, wrestling, track, freestyle. And when I got to college, I was on the track team. And even at Minnesota.
Wait a minute. College. You graduated from high school. You're a multi-sport star. Did South Carolina, any of those schools come knocking on your door to wanting you to play football or any of that stuff?
So I was heavily recruited for football, but surprisingly not by the South Carolina schools. And it was funny because South Carolina State University is in my hometown, and I've been there lots of time. And they really went after Paul. Like, they really wanted him. And I remember working out in their gym once with Paul, and they didn't pay me any attention. Like, they were so like, we want Paul. So none of the South Carolina schools really didn't show me any love.
What was your size when coming out of high school? So
I weighed about 204.
Yeah.
Maybe 210 at the most in high school, but
and fast, you were setting records in the sprints all the time, right?
Yeah, I was so on the track team, I ran the 100, the 200, the 4x1, and I threw shot put because I was the biggest guy on the team. I ended up taking.
Often your 100-meter champion putting the shot.
How often is that, John? You're a big fat guy too. I mean, how often do you see that?
Most shot putters can't run 100 meters, much less run them fast.
Yeah. So I ended up, I wasn't great at shot, but I took second in the 100. I believe our team, did we win state? We won state or took second in the 4x. No, we took second in the 4x1.
So you finished second in the state in the 100 meters?
Yes. I still have the medals.
And you won a state championship in wrestling?
2.
Twice.
2. Wow.
And South Carolina didn't pay you any attention?
None.
Were
I was
you all state
also ranked
football?
one. I was also ranked one of the top 100 football players in South Carolina that year.
Wow.
So, but
And
it's
the Gamecocks didn't come knocking on your door. Man, no wonder they were losing all those games back then.
No kidding.
well, I mean, I fell in love with wrestling. So part of me going to, when I was deciding what college to go to, I really needed to go to a school that had wrestling. So even if they were knocking, I wasn't going to answer their call. Like I wanted to go to Florida State. That was always one of the Florida State.
Play football or what?
Both.
Yeah, both.
I wanted to do both, but Florida State didn't have a football team, and neither did Miami, University of Miami, because the Hurricanes was my second favorite. So from there,
what do you mean they didn't have a football team? The Hurricanes?
I'm sorry, they didn't have a wrestling team.
Wrestling team.
Now,
all those Cane fans and then some of those. What do you mean, Sheldon? We didn't have no football.
I can't wait until Ron, you just said that about Florida State.
Well, after all, it was an all-girls school before. There, right?
Hey, you know what? If you can tell Ron, but at the same time, if you tell Ron, I'll say it's because I was afraid he was going to take my recruit money like he did Ernest the Cat Miller.
Yeah. You know
wait a minute. Tell us, because I've heard the story. Tell us the Ernest the Cat Miller story.
Please do.
Okay, so this is, and mind you, I got this story directly from Ernest. So you might want to have him on the show because he could probably give you a better. But long story
we'd love
short,
to have Ernest. We haven't had Ernest yet. I love Ernest. Yeah. I haven't been around him a lot, but I like Ernest.
Yeah. So he told me the story about how him and some kids went on a recruiting trip to Florida State, and this is when Ron Simmons was the man and Ron was their host. And mind you, they're inner city kids, hats, sneakers, sweatsuits, and here comes Ron in skin tight jeans, cowboy boots, and a hat. They'd never seen a brother just like that. He said we heard him before we saw him because of his boots on the hard tile walking into the room. So he said,
see that. I can visualize that picture too.
So Ernest says, Ron dropped them off at the mall. Ron dropped them off at the movies. Ron dropped them off at somewhere to eat. And every time he would say, I'll be back in 3 hours. If you ain't here, your ass getting left. And he would just leave them. And long story short, the next morning, Bobby Bowden was meeting with the recruits for lunch. And after lunch, he's saying, they're finished up. And Bobby said, okay, guys, pay for your food because they were given money to pay for their food. Well, Bobby
by their host, which was Ron, right?
No, they were supposed to be giving their money to them by their host, but their host was Ron Simmons. So they're like, he didn't give us nothing.
That's great.
He took their recruit money.
Hey, years later, Sports Illustrated tried to do an expose on Florida State. They asked Ron, said, how is it that a kid grows up with no parents in foster homes or in relatives' place at school, have a Trans Am brand new with his picture painted on it? Ron says, I'll just go with my money. That's all he said. I'll just give him my money.
I worked really hard for it.
And then he took the bird off the hood and put a picture of himself on the hood. Right?
That's right. Jerry, you've seen the car. You saw the car, hadn't you?
I saw the car.
Jerry's seen the car.
Oh, man.
Ron was riding around with skin-tight jeans on, them cowboy boots, 3-time All-American, runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, with a car with his picture painted on it. No wonder he took Ernest's money.
And he worked very hard for it.
Yeah. So you're being recruited by these guys, but you end up in a JC because these schools don't have a wrestling team. Your love for wrestling has grown so much. You're 2-time state champion. So you end up where in California in a JUCO?
I ended up in Susanville, California.
Wow, that's a long way from Orangeburg.
Okay, so here's me showing you how ignorant I was at the time. I was from South Carolina, I had never traveled any further west than Atlanta. The only thing I knew about California was what I saw on TV, on movies, like, Boys in the Hood and all these things like that. Like, that's all I knew about California, but I also knew they had beautiful beaches and things like that, Melrose Place and all that. So my coaches, named Rex Branham, he was a head coach at the time. He saw me at high school nationals where I took third. And I guess the story he tells me is he was there to recruit someone else, but every time that person was on the mat, so was I, and I was more impressive. And ended up, long story short, they ended up recruiting me to come to Lassen. But I get to Lassen, and this is Northern California. So anyone who is familiar, Northern California is the mountains. Like, this is not LA. This is not, bright light, big city, Hollywood. No, I'm up in the mountains in this tiny little town. The college was smaller than a high school. And the first day I got there, one of the coaches named Joe Arminas, as we're pulling into the building, his pickup truck had rolled backwards off of a hill and was lodged on a giant boulder. And I just remember when we pulled up, seeing this, thinking to myself, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Like, these idiot, I'm thinking this idiot didn't put the parking brake on, so now his truck is stuck on a boulder. I had never seen a boulder before. Okay, that's how foreign this whole thing was to me. And but for me, it turned out to be the best thing for me. Not a lot of distractions, only a couple things to focus on. So it was necessary. I'm not like a big religion person, but I do feel like there are forces that were working in my favor to put me in a situation where I could focus. Because had I gone to Southern Cal, I wouldn't have made it. I was a young country bumpkin. I wouldn't have made it. This was actually closer to it. It was way closer to what I was coming from, as far as what the city was like or what the town was like. I would have drowned in Southern Cal.
How often did you get to go home from California?
Twice a year. I went home in the summer and I went home for Christmas. So for 2 years, yeah, I went home 4 times.
Wow.
But I was always of the, okay, well, this is just what I have to do. And a part of me, I chose, because obviously I had other options, but I chose California because in my hometown, it was very common for people to go to school in Florida, go to school in in the South Carolina schools and Georgia, and within driving distance. But I noticed that they would always, well, I shouldn't say always, but a lot of them would fail and come home.
Yeah.
And I wanted to put myself in a situation where I had to make it work no matter where I was. Because when they flew me out to California, it was a one-way ticket. And all I had was a trunk with some clothes in it and a Walkman. So once I was out there, it was make this work or you got to walk home.
Oh, wow.
So I made it work.
And so when you're there, because back then, or I guess like back then especially, you couldn't work when you're on scholarship.
Right.
So did you have any money for food, for going out, for anything that you really wanted to do?
In a nutshell, no. I did have a meal plan. I stayed in dorms. Yeah. But as far as extra money, nah. I was pretty. I was broke. There's no way. Like, my school was paid for, my food was paid for, my house was paid for. But anything extra is like, I had to figure out how to get things done. Unfortunately, I wasn't in a situation where my parents could mail me money regularly or anything like that. So I literally was on my own.
And you had no transportation except your shoes, right? Shoes on your feet, right?
No transportation, no shoes. That's where I found out dating girls with cars came in handy. So
So I want to get in from there. Tell us you're at are you wrestling at school? Also had a wrestling team on top of you. So you're playing two sports also on top of school.
so wrestling
Which
didn't
is
have,
very difficult for those don't know because your academics you got to maintain your grade average to be eligible all the time.
right. Well, academically, I found college to be way easier than high school.
Wow.
But from an athletic point, they didn't have a football team, so I wasn't there. There was no football team. There was wrestling, there was track, they had baseball, there was rodeo and things like that. So I basically I was just wrestling most of the time. And then when track season came around, I just joined the track team. But aside from that, there wasn't a lot to do there. Like even today, like the biggest store was, and as far as I know, still is a Walmart. So you had to be creative. The great thing about it was very outdoorsy. Like I said, we were up in the mountains. I got to experience one living in a mountain town. I got to experience real snow. I got to experience real camping. I got to be scared by real mountain lions and real bears.
Wow.
Um,
Did
you
you
know, there
wrestle
was.
up there out there? Did you have to have
Oh no! I leave that to JBL. I'm not. I'm not.
Only an
he's
idiot
a wrestler
wrestled there.
champion. Sheldon, let's go back. I know I want to get into how Minnesota found you, but let's go back to you mentioned earlier in our discussion there that you were always a pro wrestling fan. You grew up in that Mid Atlantic area. Where you were growing up, who was it? Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, and all that crew that was going through there, which was probably one of the best crews to ever go into any territory.
So me growing up, obviously the Four Horsemen, the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, Jake the Snake, people like the Moondogs, the Moki, the Rocky King.
Was you a heel fan or a babyface fan?
So I originally was a babyface fan. The Rock and Roll Express are there when it comes to wrestling. They're my first love as far as people that I was like, I'm watching because I'm waiting to see these guys. I wasn't, I didn't care about the world champ. I didn't care about it. I was interested. I was watching to see the Rock and Roll Express, and from there, obviously, Magnum TA became a huge influence. And I was just speaking with Kurt about this. I was saying how I won so many fights using the belly to belly suplex. You have no idea. So Magnum TA, Dusty Rhodes. So even when him and Nikita joined and formed super, like
Right.
for me that was like holy cow. Like I was like that kid. So I was in there. I was in everything and. Warrior and Taker, like I didn't see a lot of WWF at the time, WWE now, but I didn't watch a lot of WWE. So to me, obviously Hulk Hogan was the champion in WWF, but anytime I watched the show, I never saw him, so I didn't consider him the world champ. I consider, to me, Ric Flair has always been the man. Okay, did you see a little thumbs up?
Well, who gave that? Did John give that thumbs up?
That wasn't me. That was Ric Flair. He's been
Ric Flair.
watching the waiting room.
He's in the
Actually, that's Ricky. That's Ricky and Robert giving you a thumbs up. They're so happy that you mentioned them. Tell them who. Tell them.
So anyway, when you go out west, did that love for pro wrestling, was that still with you? Was you able to tune in much when you got out there, or was it out there on TVs?
I never missed a week. If there was a TV around with cable, I on Mondays I found it, and if I had to go in early just to basically get to the TV before anyone else does, so I can like kind of stand guard so I can watch. I did it. I never missed anything. Like my love for pro wrestling, it showed all the time, and I'm talking like even at amateur wrestling amateur wrestling bouts, we would me and my buddies, we're still doing pro wrestling. I'm drop kicking guys on the mat and giving guys suplexes and DDTs. So there was never a time in my childhood or in my early adulthood where I wasn't a fan of pro wrestling. I
Were you thinking
followed.
at all during that time that one day you want to try that?
Oh, before I left high school, my high school coach, Coach Ron Donnick, asked me what I wanted to do, and that was the first thing I said. I want to try pro wrestling. He was actually friends with Gorilla Monsoon, so he was like, "Okay, well, we'll get you through college and stuff, and then maybe we'll give him a call and see if we can make some things happen." And not to fast forward the story a bit, but when I first sat down with Jay in his office, he was asking me what I want to do, and Jay Robinson, the head coach of Minnesota, and I told him the same thing. Like, I want to try pro wrestling. He's like, "Okay, well, let's get you through school first, and then we'll see what we can do about that." Clearly, it worked out. So, but yeah, I've always been a fan of pro. I've been a fan of pro wrestling more than I've been a fan of anything else I can think of.
Go ahead. In college, you were running a track as well, right? So you were a 100-meter champion in track as well in college, right?
Right, in junior college.
In junior college,
right.
What was your best time?
10-2.
Wow.
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 Jerry once ran a 4-ever.
Yeah. I still do run.
That's what I ran a 40 in. I ran a 40
I've been real consistent for the last 50 years. I'm still running the same 4-ever time.
Hey, long as you're still running, that's all that counts, right?
So you're out west, and then you're winning a national title and amateur wrestling in JUCO. How did Jay Robinson come into the picture?
So I guess they saw me at junior college nationals my sophomore year in junior college, when that year I won. And I steamrolled everybody that year. Like, I took third the year before, and I was so hot from that. And I, like, this year, like, no one scored a point on me. No one even came close. Like, I steamrolled through that tournament, and Minnesota started recruiting me. I want to say,
who was out there? Was it Morning Star, or who was it that was out there for Jay? Or was Jay there?
I think it was Marty.
Marty.
I'll be honest. I'm not really sure, because they were talking to the coach and not to me. They were talking to Jay and not to me. So they had conversations, and then when we got back to California, they had more conversations. So I'm not exactly sure who, but if I were to guess, I would say it was Marty Morgan. So yeah, but I resisted. I actually wanted to go to Arizona State. I had a teammate from the previous year from Lassen. One of my teammates went to Minnesota. His name was Gerald Carr, and another teammate went to Arizona State, and his name was Mike Douglas. And I wanted to go to Arizona State because
was Bobby coaching there?
At Arizona State?
Yeah.
No, it was Leroy. Leroy.
Another cowboy influenced him, by the way. We're everywhere. John, we're everywhere, man.
Notice all of them have left Oklahoma. Anybody who's got a car leaves Oklahoma. See, Shelton, I think Donald Trump is right about the wall. He's wrong about the location. We need it around Oklahoma. They keep them in and keep everybody else out.
Oh my God.
That's okay with me, as long as you guys pay for it.
Yeah, that's right. We're gonna build it all and have Texas pay for it.
Yeah, Texas will pay for it. So anyway, we'll get off of knocking Oklahoma like my a friend from Texas likes to do. But But you know, you got this decision. You're wanting Arizona State, and Jay's putting the pressure on you, and you end up at Minnesota, correct?
Right. Yeah. So it was. So I guess Arizona State already had a heavyweight that was under scholarship, and they only have a limited number of scholarships, so they
Was
couldn't.
that heavyweight Cade Vasquez or?
No, no, it was something like St. Cloud or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But they actually the team wanted me there because Lassen did a practice with Arizona State when we were there for a tournament, and I beat up their heavyweight so bad he left his own wrestling room.
Wow.
So I remember hearing Leroy later just chewing him out. That's a junior college kid. You got ran out of your own room by a junior college kid. so yeah, it like I said again, it all worked out. But I was not ready for that cold in Minnesota.
No kidding.
Yeah, I was going to add, how was that culture shock, you know?
Man, the first time I had to walk to practice in sub-zero degree weather, snow, crunching under my feet, and my nose kept being irritated. And I thought, coming from the South, it felt like gnats were flying around my face. No, it was just the air and my breath freezing on my face. So I wasn't ready for any of that. And again,
did you run into any of the guys up there? I trained up there with Brad Reingans up in Minnesota, just north up at Hamill in Highway 55. Did you know that any of those guys still around? Because you're wanting to get into pro wrestling. Did you see any of those guys that were there that were left over from the Gagne territory?
The only person that I saw kind of regularly was Vern. Because Vern was a big sponsor for the team. So he would always come down and he'd have these rich bigwigs with him, and they just kind of be in the rooms, just watching us practice. And I might have done like some sort of charity event for him one time, and I got in a boxing ring, which was the closest to a wrestling ring at the time I'd ever been. But for the most part, I only really saw Vern.
Did you ever talk to him?
Not really. Not really. Like I said, he would come. Like I said, he would come in and be him and 3 or 4. Like I said, these super rich people. They just hang out, talk to Jay and everything, watch the team, and then they would, take off. I'm sorry, and Jesse Ventura. So I became good friends with Jesse because he's around a lot, and I funny enough, I feel like I saw him a lot around town. So. And this
had he already been governor at that time?
Yeah, I met him before he was governor. He actually came in like while he was running, was the guest as a team, and like he sat with the team, and I was sitting with him and kind of being like his kind of narrating the action to him type thing.
Shelton, I helped set that up for Jay. Every night you guys wrestled, I believe Owen set the national record for attendance there, correct?
Right. Yeah, it was nuts, and like but it was for me. It was cool because at the time Jesse was the talk of the country.
Yeah, that's when he presented the Governor's Cup to you guys, I believe that night.
Right, and for me, that was my first time feeling like I was around a celebrity, and I just felt like, wow, I'm in a really lucky spot. Like, this is cool. I'm sitting here, chatting up with Jesse Ventura. Believe it or not, my first memory of Jesse is from the TV show Small Wonder. So for me, like I said, the kid in me is still marking out. This is a pro wrestler. Like, I know he's going for governor, but this is Jesse the Body Ventura. This is the guy wrestling Small Wonder. This is, this is the guy from Predator that got his chest blown out. So I was starstruck. I would definitely say I was starstruck. But Jesse was so nice. He was such a nice guy, so cool, and like I said, anytime I was around him, it was a good time.
And during that time, that's when you when you're going through the program there at Minnesota, were you still thinking, were you making inroads into going into professional wrestling, or does that come after college?
No, So while I was always a fan, like I had to focus on what I was focused on. So all my energy was into my sports there at the time. It was still in the back of my head. I was still a fan. I still watched every week, but I was focused on what I was doing. I wasn't trying to make any connections or anything like that. And yeah, I was just like I said, focusing on first wrestling and then assistant coaching, which started to be me started when I started training for the Olympics. And that's when WWE, or that's when I think that's when Jerry and everyone caught note of Brock, and things happened that got me moving in that direction. But while I was in college, no, my focus was I was all in on the amateur wrestling.
You mean to tell you how much competition Mr. Brisco has with Iowa and Minnesota and all these other schools? So we were in Iowa last year at the Hall of Fame where he's on the board member, and wonderful time. Jerry looks at me, he says, "Call 911, I'm having a stroke." And literally his eyes rolled back in his head and he fell over. And I thought, oh my God, I'm thinking he may have just died. And so the guy, we're holding him up and he's sweating and the ambulance is coming and he's starting to kick out a little bit, but not very much. They get him on the gurney and they start wheeling him out. And we can't believe this all has happened. And I said, "Mr. Brisco, now don't you die in Iowa. You know how embarrassing that would be?" And he kicks out and he goes, "No shit."
Two places I don't want to die: Iowa and Texas.
Oh,
It turned out he didn't have a heart, so it wasn't a heart attack. It turned out it was just exhaustion. So he turned out.
So let's get off of Brisco. It's not about me, John. It's about our guest there. And so, but anyway,
no,
so
I like this.
so yeah, well, you would. So anyway, we're talking about Brock. Your assistant coach now. You won a couple All-Americans and at Minnesota. So now Jay asked you to stay on an extra year, and so in that meantime, that extra year, the way Jay had recruited Brock Lesnar out of a junior college and then the Dakotas at a tournament, Bison Open, I believe it was up there. Mm-hmm. Was you at that tournament when Marty actually saw, or was you wrestling in that tournament?
I was wrestling in that tournament.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I actually lost. I can't remember where, but I ended up losing a match. Got my head, like I have a gash over my eye from it and everything, but I ended up losing the match. And so Brock ended up winning that tournament.
Brock turned around and pinned that guy that beat you, if I'm correct.
Yeah, you know who it was? Abe Boomer from Nebraska. That's who I lost to. Yeah. And Brock beat him easily.
Yeah.
Now that was my senior year, so I got another shot at at Boomer, and yeah, I beat him handily. But I was so mad.
Payback's a bitch, right?
Oh my God, I was on a mission to get him, but yeah. So Brock, and I said this before. You look at him, and it's like as a coach of any physical sport, football, rugby, pro wrestling, amateur. You look at Brock, and how can you not try to get him on your team? Like knowing zero about him. Yeah, that's the kind of athlete we need. We'll figure out what his weaknesses are, what his strengths are, but get me that.
Brock's like that. Brock's like that commercial with Charles Barkley and the kids. Who are you going to pick first?
Right.
We'll take Brock.
Yeah. Jay,
I don't know what we're playing. We'll take Brock.
Yeah, right. Jay tells me the story. After you lost to the Nebraska kid, and Brock went over and just single-handedly wiped him out. He looked over at Marty. He said, "Marty, get that kid in Minnesota tomorrow. Don't let him leave. Don't leave him alone, because if you don't get him, somebody else is going to get him. We're going to sign him." And then Jay refused to let Brock out of the building until he signed a
oh yeah. They swarmed him. Yeah. And again, me being their heavyweight, I'm still seeing this, and I'm just like, really? I'm like, you're gonna do that? You're gonna do that right in front of me? I'm like, okay, all right, okay, Mom.
But I was also told by Jay that the reason he brought you back as assistant coach because you're the only one in the room that could stay with Brock and push Brock to a level that he needed to be.
Oh yeah, yeah. He Brock was a handful from day one, and we had a couple of other heavyweights. One of the guys named Brenton, whatever. But nah, no one could handle him really, except for me. Every now and then, Marty would get in there with him, and you know, because Marty's so good, he was able to stay just ahead of him. But like I said, Brock, I was the only one that gave him real competition. But and Brock might not want to admit this either, but every now and then Billy Pierce would come in there, and Billy would beat the hell out of both of us.
Yeah.
Billy was the heavyweight before me,
Right.
and my God, like when he came in the room, me and Brock were just like, "Oh no, it's Billy," because Billy would just come in there and maul us. I couldn't do nothing with Billy.
Yeah.
And Brock couldn't
it's great when those old timers come into a wrestling room, because they got that year of maturity on, and they don't have any rules where they can let it all fly, and the coach ain't gonna get on them. So
right.
we can pull out all stops to get through college.
Yeah. So yeah, Billy beat us both up, but for the most part, it was the first few months I was actually coaching him, and we were coaching him. They were fine tuning him because he was so explosive, and that was the first few months. But Brock is such a sponge for combat sports. After about 3-4 months, like it was just straight up sparring. Like it was just all day sparring. Also, I want to address this. Like I heard that Meltzer had reported that I was not beating Brock in the wrestling room. And my first thought is, who is Meltzer?
Yeah.
Like, that's my first thought, because I'm not a hater, but I'm like, bro, you really need to check your sources, because me and Brock wrestled for 3 hours a day, every day for almost 2 years. There were plenty of days where I whipped Brock, and there were plenty of days where Brock whipped me, and there were plenty of days where for 3 hours, me and Brock just had a long ass hand fight.
Yeah.
So before you go reporting on people that you know nothing about, please check your sources and check your information.
And a sport you know nothing about also.
Right. Yeah. So it's funny to me that people are surprised when they find out that, one, I was a college heavyweight, because I was, but I was a smaller heavyweight. My weight class was 286. The heaviest I ever competed was 217.
Yeah, you're one of those heavyweights that those 285 pounders headed to compete against because you were athletic heavyweight.
Right.
And nowadays you pat yourself on, you were kind of the prototype of the heavyweights, because if you look at these heavyweights nowadays, they're Shelton Benjamin type heavyweight.
Oh yeah, like when I look back now, I'm like, everyone's really like, I mean, there are some jack guys, but for the most part, they're not these big monsters. Like they're just heavy athletes, very athletically built. Like not, we got 8-packs on these heavyweights.
They're 230, 240 pounders that don't want to lose any weight to go down to 97 or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, I refused. Like I said, the heaviest I ever competed in college was 217. Wow. And the average guy I wrestled was about 255 to 260.
What do you weigh now? About 320?
John, don't get me started.
Right now,
I got all blown up. He's all blown up.
I haven't gained a lot of. I only weigh about 245. But
it's all in your arm.
It must all be in my arms. But yeah, I only weigh 245, which is for me even heavy. Like I wanna drop about 10 pounds. Yeah. But I think it'll just make me look bigger.
Yeah, I know I've told you this conversation several times. I had Jay on the line when I was calling him about Brock, and Jay said, I called him like a maybe a couple of weeks before the Big Ten, and I said, Jay, we really want your heavyweight. I'd called him the year before when he was a junior, and he said, no, I don't even want you talking to him. I don't want him distracted because Brock gets distracted easily. So I waited. I gave Jay my word, and I'm getting pressured by Vince. I'm getting pressured by Jr. And when you going to get that Minnesota kid? So Brock wins the tournament. So of course I'm getting called from Vince and Jay recruit Jr. recruit this guy. I said, okay, I will, but I give him my word that I'm gonna wait. Jay, I called Jay, like I said, a couple of weeks before Brock's senior Big Ten, and that Jay made me promise, don't call him. I give you my word. A couple of weeks after the national championship, I'll have him in my office, and I'll have him all set where all you got to do is put the finishing touches to it. He said, plus I'm going to have a bonus for you too. And who did that bonus turn around to be? Tell us that conversation about how Jay, when that happened, when that all played
out. So I know, like, me and Brock we'd gone to SummerSlam.
No, that was after. That was afterwards. You done SummerSlam after.
No. SummerSlam was before either one of us were
recruited.
Recruited. Okay. Because that SummerSlam, that was the first invitation you guys gave for us to come down and watch the show.
Yeah.
And so I remember Jay had told me that you guys would be in town. He had spoken to you. And he said there might be an opportunity for me, but he wanted me to come to the show and check it out and, just have a good time, meet the guys and enjoy yourself. And it was one of those, again, because I had to talk with Jay 2 years before saying, yeah, this is something that I'd want to do. So with that in mind, we went to the show. And I remember Jay was just saying, they can talk to you, but they can't talk to Brock because my eligibility was done. Yeah. We can't screw up Brock stuff. So just go have a good time. If they want to talk to you, fine. But, they can't really have the conversation with Brock at this point. So we went down, met everyone. It was a hell of a show. And I remember that's when The Rock shoved Billy's face in some woman's butt. But yeah, and that was awesome. So I ended up getting signed. That was SummerSlam. I ended up doing a tryout the week before Thanksgiving, and I knew about my tryout. So I had been training my ass off to do this tryout for months. I'm talking, I'm jogging 10 miles through Minneapolis. I'm going to the gym more than ever, just getting myself all jacked. And I remember about a week before I did the tryout, I went into the wrestling office and Marty was like, God damn, dude, why did you do that when you were here? So, I did my tryout with Andrew Bernardsky, who's an actor. He's been in like a bunch of movies. He played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. I don't know. He didn't work out, but I worked with Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom trained me for about 30 minutes before I had technically my first match with Pete Gas from the Mean Street Posse.
Right.
After about 30 minutes of training, he said, just listen to him. And for the most part, because I was such a fan of pro wrestling and I watched it my whole life, everything he was calling, I knew. There was a few fine tuning things. Like I didn't realize when you do a sunset flip, you actually had to jump over the guy, not like slide across his body and, fall over like a house of cards. But just little things like that. But I had my first technical pro wrestling match after 30 minutes of training. And
was that all part of the tryout?
Yes.
What'd you do at the first part of the tryout?
The first part of the tryout, that was pretty much it. Like he did the lock up and the slow walk and just kind of seeing how much I listen.
If I recall, the first part of it was basically just cardio to find out the guys who had been working out and the guys who really wanted it. kind of a tryout attitude wise, and then we kind of went into the lockups and the matches.
Right. So for me, the tryout was way easier than I expected, and maybe it's because of my amateur wrestling background, but it was physically way easier. And like I said, he was calling the moves. I knew how to do stuff that I probably shouldn't know how to do, but it was because I'd watched pro wrestling my whole life. And, I was one of those kids in the playgrounds with the cardboard belts and fighting each other in the neighborhood and testing out the figure four to see if this really hurts. So uh, I think I had a leg up in that aspect. But the tryout went well. For me, it was so short. Bernarski ended up pushing his limits and giving himself a concussion. But for me, it was literally a piece of cake. And I remember flying home thinking, because this was in Connecticut, and I was flying back to Minneapolis, and I was thinking that seemed way too easy, and I don't feel like I did enough. So I didn't think I actually got the job because everything to me was so easy from a physical standpoint, and it was 2 days. It was really short, like a couple hours the first day, a couple hours the second day, and I actually got to meet Taz. This was just before he had debuted. And I remember he said, and I always remember this, Taz said, make sure when you're getting in the ring to always inspect the ropes. Inspect the ring, inspect the way you work, because these ropes can be your best friend or your worst enemies. So from Taz, from that first meeting, I've carried that little message my entire career. So even when I do shows today, the first thing I do is I go and I start checking out the equipment. Like that, it's just ingrained in me from that one little chance meeting. So fast forward, I get signed in January of 2000, but it's not for another year that Brock comes. But in the meantime, Cornette, they all thought I'd been training before, because again, I was way more knowledgeable with the moves than someone who just showed up. Like climb the top rope, bing, do a hip toss, bing, do an arm drag. Like everything was by the numbers with me.
So if you were listening to Pete Gas call a match, why didn't you ever listen to me and Ron when we tried to call the match?
Well, first of all, I was trying to avoid Ron's spine buster.
So was everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, and poor Charlie was the most unsuccessful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, who wants to take it? Shelton push Charlie on Charlie.
I don't know how it worked out. Charlie was when we were like at work in the program. Charlie was taking the spine buster every time, and I remember he finally was like, "Shelton, can you take that spine on the pine tonight, man? It's killing me, man." Like I'm like, "Sure, I'll take it." But no matter what, when the match started, Ron just already had it in his head. I'm spine busting Charlie. So he'd be punch. I would feed for a spine buster. He would just go punch until Charlie.
That's one of those things where brothers stick together, right?
Hey, Ron used to spine buster Road Dogg, and Road Dogg would act like he's a chalk outline on the mat, and he wouldn't move for like 5 minutes. Road Dogg would be like he's Velcroed to the mat. He goes, I think I'm dead. I think I'm dead. Every night he'd say that.
Ron gave it to me one time. Like I took it a couple times, but there was one night. This was the only time I felt like he put maybe a little stink on it. Because when I hit the mat and like wham, I swear to God, laying there, the only thing that came to this, I literally said this in the middle of the ring. Wow. Because it was an out of body experience. I felt like my soul bounced. Did a couple of flips, looked back down at my body laying there, debated whether or not it should come back.
Hey, Nick Patrick told me one time in Japan that Vader had squashed Butch in the corner and it just almost knocked him out. And Ron goes, "Tag me." As soon as they tag him, Ron hits Vader with a spine buster. And we said when Vader hits the ground, it's like he's on a skateboard going backward. He goes, "Ron, it's a work, it's a work, it's a work."
I love
That
Ron.
spine buster. I don't know what they should have named it. It wasn't a spine buster. It was the planting of a human being somewhere.
Right. It was an execution. That's what it was. but you know what was funny? To me, at least my thinking at the time was because Charlie was selling it so hard after
yeah, of course he was.
After having monitored the behavior of one Ron Simmons and JBL, I'm like, if I start complaining, I'm basically encouraging them to continue. So that's why I felt like anytime we would try to put a match together, no matter what, Ron was like, I'm a spine buster Charlie because he can play so much. Poor Chuck.
Ron used to, when he talk over a match, you've been there with him. He had that deep James Earl Jones voice,
Right.
And he talk over guys who didn't know him. He goes, "Now, you come in, I'm gonna knock the shit out of you." And then when you come in, and guys are sitting like, and Ron didn't mean anything by it. It's just the way he was talking match. I finally told him, I said, "Ron, you're scaring these guys to death." He goes, "Why?"
Wow.
Right.
One of the first matches that we had, Ron was telling us, he was basically calling his comeback on him, but he wasn't talking. It was literally all pantomime. Ron he was like thinking, like, okay, and it was almost like he was thinking to himself because he looks at me, he looks like you and then you and
I've seen him do that.
And you talk again, and then you.
That's what you do.
That's perfect. That's a perfect imitation of Ron.
And guys would look at him like, "You're gonna do that?"
Yeah. But the whole thing, I was like, okay, he's gonna punch me. He's gonna punch me. Oh, he's gonna spine buster Charlie. Okay. Every time.
Hey, the best ever. We're in Atlantic City, and we worked for 30 minutes trying to get the people in the last match with the Dudleys. And Devon thinks it's a false tag, and so when he comes in, he's hiding behind Earl, and he's like that. And Ron's moving around. Ron finally goes, "Devon, it's the hot tag." And Devon goes, "I'm sorry, Ron," and just walks right into it and go, "Bam!"
At that point, you just give yourself up.
Yeah.
Devon, it's the hot tag.
He just stopped. He put a hand on his hip like that, and he just looked at him. The crowd's dead. And he goes, "Devon, it's the hot tag." Devon goes, "I'm sorry, Ron."
Oh my God.
Ron was the best.
Ron is one of those guys. If he's just talking, I just want to pull up a chair and just sit and listen.
Oh,
because his stories are great, and just his voice. He's like honestly, Ron should start doing voiceovers, much like what's the actor? Morgan Freeman.
Oh yeah.
Because I would totally anything Ron's narrating, I would watch.
You'll listen to
anything.
Yeah.
That voice just draws you in.
Oh my God, it does. And again, he's a great storyteller too. So it's like I can watch him narrate anything.
And his timing is so good. Now let me get this right. Whenever he said that, so everybody just listens because something great's coming.
Yeah. So do you remember when when they had Ron working for the office, and he was basically, his job was to check everyone's time who was coming in, make sure everyone was getting there on time. And I remember Ron was like, "Oh, okay, so I'm the stooge. That's my job. I'm the stooge. Well, how the hell am I gonna say what time he get in when I'm getting in late my damn self?" Well, I'm the stooge.
To this day, people will call me and say, Hey, would you mind asking? No, I'm not asking Ron. He's got a phone. If you text him and he doesn't respond, it's because he doesn't want to. I'm not going to call him for you. Hey, would you just mind? No, I'm not. No. He knows you're trying to get hold of him. When Ron first came in, Pat would come to me. He goes, guys, we're gonna have you guys do a job tonight, and he wanted me to go talk to Ron. Ron doesn't care.
Would you tell him for us?
Yeah, would you tell him for us? Let him know that we want you guys to do a job. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Yeah. Let us know how that works out.
Yeah. So, was Brock all along planning on coming in at that time that you were a year in WWE before him?
Oh yeah, because he started training with Brad. That I think around that time was when he became really good friends with Brad Ragans and Kurt Hennig, and he started getting plugged in to the local, the guys that were local in Minnesota. And to be honest, I was a little jealous.
Why did you never train with Brad?
It was never an option. I met Brad through Brock.
Yeah.
When WWE, for me, it was one of those situations where WWE came and signed me, and things just happened so fast that there was no buzz around me, so to speak. But Brock being who he was at the time, and the active heavyweight, I think he drew a lot of attention just from his look. So I don't know how or when those relationships started for him and like guys like Brad, and but I just never had the opportunity. I went to Brock once to Brad's place, and this is after having been in Louisville almost a year. And Brad had this old ring. I think it was an old WCW ring. And it felt like concrete.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I told Brock,
he still had it in his basement?
No, this was in a barn next to his house. But it might have been his basement. It was but I know it was attached to it. It was a barn next to his house, and I believe the ring was in it next to it. And yeah, we went in there, and I'm watching Brock and Brad roll around. I think there might have been one other guy. I can't remember who, but I was like, I'm good. I'm not gonna work out because I'd already been to Louisville, and Louisville had the softest ring I've ever been in to this day. Like it was like landing on a big ass cushion. So comparing OVW ring to Brad's ring, it was like taking a bump on my hardwood floors versus taking a bump on my soft bed. Day and night. And Brock didn't realize how hard the ring was. He didn't realize how hard that ring was until he got to Louisville. He was like, Jesus, like, oh my God, like his ring doesn't give at all. This is like a Tempur-Pedic bed.
So when you guys got down to Louisville, I remember us coming down there and seeing it. And we're thinking like, you know what? I need to make some money now because when this group comes up, we're all out of jobs. Because that was to this day, I would think, Jerry, you would know probably better. That was the best class WWE ever had. I've never seen a better class in any territory, anything, anywhere. You guys were training your ass off and had some unbelievable athletes down there in OVW.
Yeah, we had some great guys. I mean, and it's funny, we had great guys that didn't make it. Yeah. Like, Ron Waterman, Brian Keck, Sylvester Turkay. These are all like guys that were monsters in the amateur ranks and even in MMA, and they didn't make it.
It always surprised me, Brian, no neck Keck. I mean, and a perfect body for professional wrestling. He just didn't have that one element, and I still can't figure out to this day. And God rest his soul, what element it was that he didn't.
So for me, just from my observation, and again, this is no knock on Brian because everyone's.
Well, you were there every day with training with him, and I was just.
Yeah. So the issue I saw, he had a very unique look, which would have been perfect for the business. Great guy. I have nothing but good things to say about him that way. I guess the only thing that I can say about Keck is that the light bulb never quite got lit. Like, he always looked like a guy who was playing pro wrestler, not a pro wrestler. That's the best analogy I can.
That's a good way to put it. And same with Sylvester. Sylvester, John, is who Kurt beat in the national finals. Sylvester, what, 6'6", something like that?
6'6", 270, 280.
270, and personality, just so much personality just oozes out of him. But I don't think he ever figured out we're in business,
Did he come up for a short time, or did he not?
Yeah, he did.
He did. He was with Burke.
A hillbilly gimmick or something like that, wasn't it?
No. They put him with Elijah Burke.
Yeah, Elijah Burke.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I don't know what happened there. Like, again, I personally had some really good matches with him. I know he had gotten a little bit of a reputation for hurting guys, and I didn't understand where that was coming from, because I wrestled him a million times. Most of my early high flying stuff, I basically honed working with Turkey, because he was big and athletic, and he wanted to do stuff. He was enthusiastically wanting to contribute in any way he could. Great guy, awesome guy. Like, I mean, he's definitely the type of guy you would want on your roster. It's just for whatever reason.
The locker room too, man. He was just a good guy.
Yeah, like, never had an issue. And again, but we had, like, who else is out there?
You just had so much talent down there. I mean, it's easy to get overlooked in that roster.
People. So obviously, Cena, Brock, Orton, Batista. Those are like we'll call them the big four. If you want to say a big five, that's when you would throw me in. But it was also myself, Nick Dinsmore, Rob Conway, Nydia, Jazz, Victoria, Mark Henry, Big Show, Sean O'Hare, Brian Kendrick, or Brian was actually more Cincinnati. But again, the amount of talent that was going through there at that time, it's mind-boggling. And again, like I said, I'm proud to be a part of that class, just because, like I said, we got four all-time greats coming out of that class.
I think it was more than four myself.
I think it was more than four, but popularly known.
Yeah.
Popularly known.
Yeah.
How was the whole thing? Because it seemed like a great atmosphere. Because I was down there a couple times, training Danny Davis, Dr. Tom, Cornette. I mean, it just seemed like a good mix of people working with the talent that worked very well with these guys. Right. It's hard. It's hard when you got such great talent sometimes. I mean, your trainers could potentially screw it up, just like they could actually help it. But it seemed like those guys were the right guys.
Right. So I think a big part of what made everything work was, again, everybody was hungry, everybody was humble, and everyone has their own story. But my perception was everyone was there. No one had made it. In the early days, before guys like say a Big Show or Mark Henry, or people who've actually had some experience were to come down. But for the most part, everyone was there. We all got along like friends. Everyone showed up early. Everyone stayed late. There wasn't a whole lot of complaining. There wasn't a whole lot of nonsense. And it was a iron sharpens iron situation. We knew that we all wanted to make it to the big time. But we also knew that it was roles. The WWE's, when they're adding new characters, it's like picking a role. And if they want a monster, they're not going to pick me. They're going to look at Brock. They're going to look at Batista. They might look at Turkai. Or if they wanted a high flyer, they looked at what they had, and we understood that we're picking roles. But at the same time, while we all helped each other, like we all became friends. We would hang out together, go out. We were legit friends that looked out for each other and wanted everybody to be good. So everybody helped everybody. And because we knew once somebody get picked up, well, what's going to happen when they need a high flyer? We want them. WWE had 3 options, well, 4 if you count the non-contracted talent around the country. But between Cincinnati, Memphis, and OVW, we wanted them to keep coming back to OVW to pluck their new stars. So that's why we all made a concerted effort to make sure everybody was overqualified so that when they go up there, they go, oh, he's OVW. They put out good talent. Let's look at that area again for our next call-up.
And I also remember several phone calls I received from you and Brock, during the later times. You guys are ready. And John, being an athlete, you can relate to this story too. You're in a workout, and it's like being in a wrestling room. You're gonna continually get knowledge, but you're working with guys that you start at this level. Pretty soon you're at this level. You want to get to that extra level, but the guys with you are at this level. You need to be elevated. You need to be elevated. And Sheldon and Brock, coming from that amateur wrestling background, which you beat somebody and you get elevated, but this is kind of a perception type deal. These guys knew that they were ready to graduate, and they weren't making any deals. And I know both of you guys were getting very frustrated towards your end of OVW, and I got a phone call from you and Brock that, hey, if we need to be elevated, it's time for us to move up or something else.
Yeah, it was.
Do you remember making those phone calls?
Yeah, so I was there. I was in OVW for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
My last 6 months, 6 to 8 months, I was teaching as much as I was learning.
Yeah.
Because again, I knew I was spinning my tire and I was just waiting. I was just waiting and just waiting. And mind you, there was a time I had some injury, tack on some injury time too when I banged my elbow. But again, by the time I left, by the time Brock left, and most of the other guys, pretty much everybody was overqualified because like I said, we'd always worked together, and like the work ethic never changed. We were just,
there was time.
Okay, we've done all we can do here. We've done all. I've learned all I can learn here. It's time to.
It was just time. It was just time.
Right.
And as they saw when they brought you up, it was time.
Was your first call up with Kurt Angle?
No, I first got called up doing dark matches. I want to say my first feud was with Just Incredible on Heat. So I would come and I would do those, and then that turned into myself and Cena were called up at the same time. So we were riding together, and basically we were working a lot of events against each other, and we were doing the opening darks at both TVs. So we were doing the house shows, both TVs, Raw and SmackDown, which was Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday we would fly back to Louisville to do Louisville TV, and then start the process back over Friday.
So when did it come up? Because I was doing some research on you before the show. I didn't know this thing about Ken Shamrock. You almost ended up as his sparring partner. Was this during this time or was this before?
So this is while I was still in California. My senior year? No, my sophomore year while I was in California. Apparently Shamrock was from the area. I guess he went to the high school there in Susanville. His friend was the high school wrestling coach. And the story that I was given was he was gearing up for his next big bout with Gracie. And he wanted a good sized wrestler so he could work on wrestling. And the guy suggested me because he knew me from wrestling at the college. So I actually spoke with I believe it was Ken's wife at the time. And she kind of explained to me, yeah, he's looking for a sparring partner. You come down here, train with us, work out with us, blah, blah, blah. But the problem was this was MMA, and this was like old school, like early UFC, no weight classes and stuff. And I'd only seen a couple of them. I was like, yo, this ain't for me. Like, I'm sorry, but I would, I would love to. It seems like a cool opportunity if you're into fighting. I just wasn't into it, and so that didn't work out. But like I said, we did talk. I didn't talk to Ken. I don't even think he knows that he has to know I spoke with his wife but it never. Me and him never had a conversation, and to this day, me and him have never had a conversation. But it's funny how,
Yeah.
how close to actually being his sparring partner I was.
So at what point there in the WWE, what was the progression? What did you get with Charlie first? Did you get when did you end up being with Kurt Angle? Because I love that team.
That team Angle was awesome. Yeah.
I started doing the dark matches the summer of 2002. And I did those for a while. And Charlie was still recovering from his knee surgery. He had just gotten reconstructive knee surgery. So I went from there, and I was on the road. I was going back and forth between WWE and OVW. I was still tag team champs with Road Dog, not Road Dog, Red Dog, Rodney Mack at the time. And the first person to even hint to me the team angle stuff was actually Charlie, because I was just focusing on whatever I was doing. I wasn't really looking at way down the road. Charlie, I guess he had gotten, I don't know if he had spoken to you or someone. They told him they were considering putting him, originally it was him and his brother,
Russ.
and possibly me and Brock and Kurt have his own big faction. Of course, they went, they did what they did with Brock, and Charlie's brother Russ unfortunately passed away. So that's when Charlie started telling me they're thinking about putting me and you together with Kurt. And this is like I said, around summer of 2002, as Charlie was still recovering. And Charlie was the one that told me basically when I'm cleared, they're going to form Team Angle. And it just happened to clear he cleared, and we did maybe a month or two of dark matches as a tag team before they debuted us on the very last SmackDown of 2002 as Team Angle.
And how was it with Kurt?
Honestly, it was like, okay, so having formed Team Angle, it was absolutely awesome being in the main event story of the show, being a huge part of the main event story between Kurt and Brock. Now here's where it gets weird. I'm thinking, well, Kurt's the leader, Kurt's the champion, Kurt's Kurt. So he's probably going to be a stern, lead with an iron fist type of intense leader, because I didn't really know Kurt at the time. Turns out it was more like having a younger, older brother. Because Kurt made us feel like we were just important as he was in the grand scheme of things. Like it was like brothers immediately. Like he didn't talk down to us. He was just cool. Like I can't think of any negative thing to say about Kurt during that time of interaction. And like I said, there were times where he would ask us for advice, which for us, we're like, he's already been world champion. What does he need to ask us about? You know what I mean? Like, so it was very humbling to see how humble Kurt was, and how cool he was. Because like I said, hanging out with him, it was like you knew the guy forever. And I came to learn Kurt wears his heart on his sleeve and things like that. So it was humbling. It was a humbling experience, and it taught me a lot about how I want to be perceived by the people around me, and fans alike moving forward. Because I would watch Kurt interact with talent, I would watch Kurt interact with fans, and I learned a lot just by observation because he, like I said, Kurt would he was just so inviting and so easygoing and put everybody at ease around him. Like he was just a great guy. Like I again, it was awesome. And at that time, I couldn't wait to get to work. I was having so much fun, and like I hated going home. And I know, some guys are like, oh, I hate the road. How do you do all that traveling and stuff? I'm like, are you kidding? I get to travel across the world with guys that I like and admire, make tons of money, roughhouse, which is what I'm going to do anyway. And in the meantime, I'm supporting my family effortlessly. So that was just a great time for me across the
Kurt's
board.
amazing. Kurt's an Olympic gold medalist. People always say, Kurt was pretty good. No, he wasn't. He was the best in the world.
He was the best. Yeah,
out of like
he wasn't
8
pretty
billion
good.
people, he's the best. That's not pretty good.
Like you always say, John. There's champions, then there's champions, then there's Kurt Angle that was champion of the 5 billion people or 7 billion people. He was champion.
And when he comes to wrestling, he goes straight to the main event. I mean, if anybody would go to his head, it'd be Kurt, and it didn't. I mean, it didn't at all. It never did. Kurt comes in, he's just the nicest guy. He's the best wrestler literally on the planet.
Right.
He comes in the Attitude Era when everything's hot and he's on top the entire time. It's amazing what he did.
Yeah, I still scratch my head. But again, Kurt has when it comes to work, just same way it comes to amateur wrestling, Kurt had no governor. Like he just goes and he goes hard, and you can't deny the work. You can't deny the work ethic and the fact that he's a great guy on top of it. It's like he's a total package.
Yeah, and he's like Eddie. He's like Eddie in the sense that it was all feel to him.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Kurt. I don't know how he could. He put him.
That's a good way to put it. It was all feel. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've worked with Kurt a lot. I don't remember we put matches together back or anything, but when he got out there with him, it was just magic because he had such a feel. And that's just born into him. That's nothing. You can't teach that because you see 200 wrestlers and 2 of them have feel. It's just you can't teach feel. And Kurt had it in spades. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, the matches that I had. The singles match I had with him, like I feel like they were all instant classics. Like I'm thinking of, obviously, me and him had a really, really good match for the Eddie tribute show, and then we had, in my opinion, an even better match in the UK for it was for Raw, but man, I just felt like he was one of those guys that he just brought the best out of me in the ring. It's like my whole thing, one of my big things, I should say, when performing is like, I want to look like I belong. And I want to look like I belong in the ring with whoever I'm with. I want to look like I belong there. Be it Kurt, be it Big Show, be it Taker, be it Sean, be it Hunter. I want to look like I belong out there. And working with Kurt, it made me level up. And I feel like those are the matches I look back and go, yeah.
There's no better feeling when you got a match against somebody and you know that if you don't level up at, like you say, you're going to get left behind. And it's no better feeling when you walk out of that ring and you feel like you leveled up and you leveled up from the reaction from it. And you get backstage and you're celebrating with your opponent. There are few feelings on earth as great as that.
Right, man. It is so satisfying. It's one of those. Just like when you're having a match and you have the crowd in the palm of your hands and they're reacting to everything you do. Like for me as a performer, there is nothing greater than that feeling when you realize I got him.
Yeah, because you don't get them every night.
No.
Sometimes you go out there and you think, man, we had a great match last night. Go out there and do the same match or something similar, and it doesn't work. And you're like,
right,
what just happened? But then sometimes when you're out there and you know you're one step ahead of them, and you know where you're going, it's just like, dude, this is it's the greatest feeling ever.
Like I said, to me, it's one of those things. until you don't know what it's like until you experience it. Me explaining it to you is I tell people like I could have a challenging match in front of a crowd that just sits on their hands. And at the end of that match, I will be, no matter how good or bad it was, I will be blown up and disappointed. When you're in a match and you have the crowd in your hand, you never blow up. It's like the energy that you get from the crowd. It's a real thing. It's a real feel. It's real energy. And again, unless you've been in the position, you can't explain it. But when I talk to anyone I've had a great match with, every time it's like we could have gone forever because of that crowd. And I don't think fans realize what a huge part they play in boosting our ego and our energy, because that motivation of knowing that we have them, they're right in our hands, like, and everything is pow, pow, pow. It's like there's no greater feeling as a performer. At least for me, there's no good feeling.
Kurt and I did a match one time in somewhere in the UK. It was overseas. It was a last man standing match, and we're both going to be knocked out with like a double chair shot or something, some silly something, whatever it was. So Kurt hits me, I hit him, we both go down, and Kurt's so proud of himself afterwards. He goes, "Did you see me?" I go, "What?" He goes, "I got up at 8 and fell back down." Basically, he's ribbing me. I'm like, "You bastard!" He goes, "Yeah, it's all on TV." Here's a guy who's never been in the business, and he's got me with the rib. I go, Kurt, I greatly applaud you for that. That's actually great. I used to think that you and Charlie were great, except when you imitated me, which I didn't find any humor in.
I love that.
I didn't find any humor whatsoever.
You didn't like my. I thought that was one of the greatest bits of television ever produced in the history
I
of
agree
television.
with you, Charlie.
when you and Charlie were me and Ron, and Charlie was Ron and you were me. Oh my God!
Damn. Man. Oh my! You know what's funny? It's funny when because every now and then with social media and as old stuff kind of pops up, and I've seen little clips of that pop up before, and some people just don't understand humor, because they will go, "Well, why is Shelton the white guy and Charlie the black guy?" I'm like,
right.
That's part of it. You don't think. I was the gold standard as JBL long before I was the gold standard Shelton Benjamin.
Oh my God, Jerry! Sheldon used to get my hat backstage, and he'd be Slim Whitman. I'm gonna come in whomping and a stomping, a whooping and a man and child within an inch of that.
Oh, I remember when we were doing that program, and the writer at the time, he made us pull a line. I think it had something to do about the Georgia Bulldogs and Florida State. So, there was some line he made us pull, and you were pissed. Like, why the hell did you not say the line? I'm like, he told me not to say it. Like, why would you do that? You killed the joke. Like, what is wrong with you? But I will say during that time, and I don't think, John, you get enough credit for this, but you really went out of your way to help get me and Charlie over. And I mean, over with the crowd and over with the office as far as pitching stuff, and because of course we were shy rookies. We weren't going to speak up. So I remember many times that you would go to bat for us in a way that I didn't see people do often. And I've seen you do that for other people too. Now, and I say that because everyone has their opinion of everyone in wrestling. And I've heard many times people say things about, "Oh, John was a bully and blah, blah, blah," and all this. And I look at that shit and I go, no. John was a big kid. John wasn't to me, I read that as you being a big kid. And I was like, I've not heard one story about JBL that didn't involve something that he's done to me and Charlie. The only difference is me and Charlie just did it right back to him. And all of a sudden we got a great friendship with him out of the ribbing back and forth. Like, Like I remember one time you were in the shower. We dumped the cooler over you.
Oh
You
yeah.
were in the shower.
Yeah. I was
What happened? What happened there?
Oh, what was a live event or something? Because like I said, we were always ribbing each other back and forth. And JBL he just had a match. He was in the shower in this little tiny stall, and me and Charlie got like one of the big coolers full of ice. He was in there. We just went and just dumped it all on him. He's like, "Oh, you guys! Oh."
I'm trying to get out of the shower. I'm falling on the ice. Yeah.
Oh, you want to know one of the, for the people watching, one of the best ribs ever was Rikishi. Rikishi sat by the shower room one day, and everybody that went in, he's like, oh, you got soap? You got soap? And he was like, hey, I got some soap. He had a bottle of I don't know what it was, but it was like Dial or something. And he was like, just pour it in your hand. Yeah, go ahead. Use that. He had put icy hot in the shower gel, and everybody that went in, he was giving them sauce. And I remember when everybody was selling it, but then he got Ron too. Ron's sell was like the most stoic. Ron was just like, yeah, he got me. You got me. Everyone else is like, why am I burning? He's like, what's in there? Like, no. And Kishi's so funny. Like, as he's pouring it, like, what is? Don't worry about it. What it is? Just lather up. The ribbon back then was, oh my god, it was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. We had so much fun with you guys. It was every single night.
Also, the Shaniqua stuff.
Oh my god, that was the greatest ever. That was the greatest ever.
Oh man, they really need to start playing. We need to get some of those tapes and start playing some of those.
What a great sport Shaniqua was too.
Oh, she was awesome. Yeah. She was awesome.
Linda Miles, man, that was wow. Damn it, I'm not Shaniqua.
That was so funny.
What was your favorite story, Sheldon, about that?
So John kept, he was saying, we never see Shelton and Shaniqua in the same place. And so he's like, I think they're the same person. Yeah. So he's doing stuff. He's like, at one point, he's got a bunch of pictures, and he's like, Inspector Clouseau, like, so Shelton's here, but he wasn't here, but Shaniqua was here, but Shelton wasn't there. Anytime Shaniqua's around, we don't see Shelton, and anytime we see Shelton, we don't see Shaniqua. So he was going to uncover the truth. He was going to say Shelton and Shaniqua was the same person. At one point, they got, we did a skit where Charlie had me putting on a wig like Shaniqua and getting lipstick, and Orlando Jordan sticks his head in the door like, oh, hey, Charlie, and hey, Shaniqua. I'm like, damn it, I'm not Shaniqua.
It was so funny, Jerry. And Ron was the perfect straight guy for it the whole time, because I'm trying to tell Ron that Sheldon and Shaniqua were the same person. And so this goes on for weeks on television. I'm trying to, and Ron's like, yeah, huh? Yeah. It was so good.
Oh, like I said, that was great. That was a time, like I said, when again you were a big part in getting that whole angle pushed through and everything, and I could not. That was the time, like I said, I could not wait to get to work because I was having so much fun at work, and it was such a great time.
Ron and I both loved you guys, and we thought we knew how talented you were, and so we wanted to work with you because we knew how good you were, and plus we wanted to get pushed because we knew how good you were. So it was always fun to go to bat for you. And I would tell everybody, have you seen Sheldon imitate me in the back? For one, it's not funny, but two, you really need to put it on television.
It's not funny, but it's accurate.
It's not funny, but it's accurate. And you probably should put that on television because it's really good stuff.
Oh,
Sheldon,
But,
another skill that you had that's outstanding, you're a gamer. You won several WWE championships.
yeah,
You're a world record holder, aren't you? I read in your bio you're a
Guinness,
world record
Guinness.
holder.
Guinness.
Yes, I'm in the Guinness Book of World Records for winning the most video game championships for WWE.
Wow.
So I will say this: the video game culture had not entered the wrestling scene. Like I know Mark Henry played some football here and there, and I know guys were playing it, but no one was quite as obsessive as I was about video games at the time. And so it was easy for me to just come in and just destroy everyone. And like we were always playing the WWE games at these tournaments. And mind you, remember, I'm just out of college. I'm seeing myself on a video game for the first time. So of course, I'm playing that thing 24/7. And I just got good and just started destroying everyone. To the point where, I developed relationships with video game companies and, all these video game websites and things like that. But, I never imagined it would be like it is now, but I've always been a video game guy. Like, the first, I started with an Atari 2600 with my cousin had one. I would just go to his house to play it before we finally got my first Super Nintendo. And from there, like, I just never stopped. Like, I'm still a huge gamer, but the landscape has changed so much in the gaming world. Like, what Austin Creed has been able to do, I would have never imagined gaming and pro wrestling in such a cool, awesome marriage. Like it went from being something the older guys laughed at to where now it's like everyone every year is like, we're thinking royalties. Like, hey, I'm on the video game, right? I'm on the video game, right? Yes, you're on the video game. And a couple years when I wasn't, I was like, I refused to play it. I'm like, I'm not on it. I'm not playing that game.
I
love
one other thing that I thought was so cool was the Hurt Business. I mean, I thought you and Bobby were just magic together. I mean, that was just such a and Cedric. I thought you guys were just awesome. I mean, it was just that was a lot of fun to watch. That was such a good crew.
Right. It's very bittersweet. Excuse me. To talk about the Hurt Business because one, to your point, it was awesome. These guys are three of my best friends, like legitimately three of my best friends that we're in a position where we get to dress nice and beat people up. Look cool doing it, and and at the time when the company really needed something, we came along and gave them something special, and that bit. So with that in mind, like I'm so proud of having been a part of the Hurt Business, and that started with MVP and Bobby, and I was invited in. I think once I was invited in, that's when it really started getting traction. And then when we brought in Cedric, it was a done deal. We had all our bases covered. We had our young stuff. We had our cleanup hitter. We had our technician. We had our voice group, and like I said, everything lined up so good and everything was going so well. So clearly when things ended so abruptly, and honestly, I still don't have a good reason why he did. I asked Vince himself, I'm like, why? I remember saying to him, I'm like, and this being my second round, I'm like, I've been working for years to try to find something that to contribute to this company, and we have this. Why are you taking it away? And he basically said, "Well, we're not taking anything away from him, but I mean, even if we did, we've gone as far as we can with the Hurt Business, and we're gonna concentrate on making Bobby this, and it's like it's time for you to start helping out these young guys." And I was like, that's all I've ever done is help out these young guys. So now you're telling me it's time to start helping out the young guys. So I guess that's when for me, my heart kind of left the business because for the first, I won't say for the first time, but definitely in the most prominent way, I know I was being fed a lot of shit, and so yeah, I'm not happy with the way things ended because I think her business to this day still has so much to offer to the wrestling business.
Yeah, I loved it.
And
I thought it was one of the best things
yeah.
that had been created in years. I mean, it was
Mhm.
such a, I mean, you had these really good looking, great athletes,
Athletes, yeah.
dress very well. It just, there's something about
And
that,
spoke very well.
and spoke very well. All the athleticism that you had that brought back credibility and legitimacy to what you did. It just, I thought the whole thing worked perfectly. I was a huge fan of you guys.
And you're right. I think there was so much traction left with that. I mean, it's a timeless gimmick, to tell you the truth. In my low opinion, there, it's a timeless deal. But you know that's our business. That's how things happen in our business, and you know we don't always like it, but we go with
Right.
it. But
And when I get to come back for a little short time, I got the dress in the room with you guys, so I still got to hear Sheldon. Still got to hear Sheldon after 20 years making fun of me. You know, like what it was. I never cared who was getting ribbed. I just wanted somebody getting ribbed. I don't care. I don't care if it's me.
JBL does not like a tranquil locker room. There has to be some chaos.
It's boring. It's boring.
Oh yeah.
So Sheldon, well, you're in terrific shape now. What are you gonna do now?
I still plan to perform a little longer. I haven't really decided where I want to go. Again, there's been small conversations here and there, nothing solid. But for the most part, I'm still going to be performing. I've actually started a Twitch channel because I play so much video games. I might as well, try to make a buck or two at it.
What do you play now?
Everything.
Not that I would know any of these games.
Everything.
Everything. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch. Tekken. Tekken is my favorite game, but I also play a lot of Call of Duty, God of War, most of the big titles. But for the most part, I'm a true gamer in the sense of I don't follow tribalism with video games, just like I don't follow it with pro wrestling because I think it doesn't make sense. So I'm not an Xbox guy. I'm not a PlayStation guy. I'm a video game guy, and if it's good, I'm going to play it.
Have you ever thought about getting into development of games since your knowledge is so vast of it?
I've thought about that, but then having actually seen some of these people at work, I feel like I got to go to school for that. Like if you're developing, I gotta enroll in school for that. It would be great, but also part of me doesn't want to do it because I don't want to turn my fun into my work again.
Yeah, no. Well, when you mentioned you got to go to school, one of the proudest moments I was when you had an injury, you didn't sit there and do nothing. You called me and they said, "I'm gonna go back and get my degree." To me, that was one of the proudest moments that I had my friendship with you, and I was so proud that you made that. And congratulations, you did go back and you got your degree.
I did go back. I did get my degree at the University of Minnesota because I'd actually left a semester early to join WWE because also I was a
hell. You had 6 years there.
Wow.
Now they got 6-7 years to do it, man. That's a semester or a year. I think I could even done that.
But it was crazy because it was literally 10 years later that I
was that something that you promised your mom or just something you promised yourself?
It was something that I promised myself. Like I felt like I I spent 5 years in college. I want a degree. But it was a financial decision because again, as I was about to say, I just became a dad for the first time. and I needed money. I was actually, while training for the Olympics, but just before WWE called, I was training for the Olympics. I was, down at the Olympic Training Center and working out with the teams and stuff. But WWE to me meant money immediately, as opposed to, some sort of stipend at the time where I could probably get another job and try to make an Olympic team. It just didn't make sense. I don't want to wait every 4 years before I'm noticed. I'll take the money now and let's take care of my kid. So,
well, you did, and that's really admirable. And also, a thing that I'm really proud that you're doing, you do a lot of dog rescue, and I saw it about a year or so ago when you fostered a dog, and it came time to give it up, and you had second thoughts about giving it up.
So, I'll be honest. I haven't fostered another dog since.
Wow.
Because and again, I have two daughters. Both my kids are animal lovers. Like there has to be a furry in the house where they reside. My oldest had came and stayed with me during COVID. Her school was shut down, so I was still flying back and forth to Orlando for TVs, and she was basically here by herself for a few days. So we thought it'd be a good idea that, she thought it'd be a good idea for us to foster dogs. And it was like, okay. So I'm thinking foster dog, man, we'll have a dog for a few days, a week or two, and then it'll get adopted. No, the first dog we got, she was a kind of a staffy pit bull mix, whatever, but she was the perfect dog. She was about 4 years old, house trained, litter trained, leash trained, didn't bark, like it was, and super loving. I forced myself. We had her for 3 months. The first month, I forced myself not to fall in love with this dog because I know she's gonna get adopted at some point. And she got adopted. And the very next day, the people brought her back because apparently she growled at one of their kids. And it turns out that she's nervous around small children. Adults and stuff, she's fine, but she's nervous around small children. And you got to kind of correct her. Because because I had to do it when I got her back. Once she knows, okay, don't growl at these people, she was fine. But again, I can't fault a family for looking out for their kids.
Right.
But so now I have this dog for 2 more months. Bro, there's no way that I can wall my heart up for 3 months when you got this beautiful dog constantly looking in my face, giving me the puppy dog eyes, and again, she was perfect. I never had one problem with this animal. And when my daughter went back to school on a Friday, she got adopted Saturday, and I remember going to pick her up that day. And when they said, "Oh, she's been adopted," today was her day, I had to fake happiness because I was like all ready to take I'm thinking, oh, my daughter's gone. I'm ready to take this dog home, maybe go for a walk. And when they said she was gone, it was like, oh. So it was total empty nest syndrome when I got back home. And for months, and every now and then, I'll say to my kid, I want my dog back.
Yeah, I could never foster an animal because I would just keep every one of them. I wouldn't.
That's my wife. I've ended up. I have managed 5 dogs in my house. They're temporary. They're still permanent.
Well, Shelton, you have a lot of experience with this because Charlie was a rescue, right?
He still is.
Charlie, that rescue I fell in love with, and he never got adopted.
That's right. Nobody wants to adopt him, and you don't want to give him up.
Oh man,
that's what somebody said about Midian. How he got in BSK. He's their rescue pet.
Hey, so on the subject of Charlie, and I've said this many times, I am a much better wrestler because of Charlie. um, and I say that because I athletically, I had a lot of gifts, like out the wazoo. The problem is when you have a lot of gifts, natural gifts, and you're somewhat successful, you tend to get lazy because things are so easy for me. Things get lazy. Well, things didn't come as easy athletically for Charlie. He had to work his off. He had to work his ass off for every bit of success that he had. And as his partner, because of his work ethic, I had to raise mine. Not that I was not that I was lazy, but again, things just came really easy to me. So a big part in why we gelled so well together is because we would get in the ring all the time and get put through the paces, get training from you guys. If you remember, Arn Anderson would put us through a whole routine before shows with using the extras and things like that. But a lot of that was because of Charlie. Like Charlie wanted to do all that stuff. It didn't even cross my mind. But it was one of those things where my teammates doing that, my teammates putting in this work, so I got to put it in too because that's my teammate. And you're only as strong as your weakest link, and I'm not going to be the weak link, and I don't think we had one. So because I had to keep up with his work ethic, it made me a better wrestler. It made me a better worker, and we protected each other. For example, and I'm sure you can attest to this. If there was a situation where whoever we were working, they were calling something that I knew either as a team, we already said, we don't do this, we don't do this, and we don't do this. Or as an individual, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do this, and he doesn't do this. If someone were to suggest it, or how some guys, well, he's not here, so he can take this, or just kind of volunteer you for stuff. Me and Charlie would never allow that. Like if I know Charlie won't want to do this, if he's not around while we're talking to speak up for himself, I made sure they knew, well, we're not going to do that. But we would always say we. It's not, we're not going to do that, or we're okay with that. So we protected each other that way, and we also protected each other in a way to highlight each other's strengths. Because Charlie, to me, he was a much better technical wrestler. I had the high flying stuff. So he became the Marines, I became the Air Force. And we made sure our offense complemented each other. There's a reason I wasn't doing German suplexes when we were as a tag team. I had all this other high flying stuff. So that, clearly I could, but we needed stuff to highlight Charlie. So that's why I went to the air. He was a ground attack guy. So again, we really worked together and meshed to make things work. And the only other situation I was in that came close to that was with the Hurt Business, because the Hurt Business actually, we would sit down and we would talk about certain aspects of the group. What is your role? We would kind of. I remember once we used the analogy, we're like the Avengers. MVP is Tony Stark. MVP is Tony Stark. Clearly, I was Thor. Bobby was Hulk. Cedric, however, was Spider-Man. So we, like I said, in our heads, that's how we looked at ourselves. If there was a superhero world. But the cool thing about it is if you pulled anyone out of the equation, the next person kind of slid into that role. So if Bobby wasn't there, I'm the Hulk. Cedric becomes Cap. MVP is always Tony Stark because no one can talk better than MVP. Period. So and again, we all knew our understandings. We understood our dynamics, and again, we looked out for each other. Because the same type of thing, like guys that want to do stuff with Bobby. Well, we knew Vince had plans for Bobby. So we would protect Bobby. You can't do this to Bobby. You can do it with me. You can do it with Cedric. You can do it with Pete. Bobby, when he comes in, he's a cleanup hitter. It's all destruction. So, and I I can't speak for other teams, but that's what made, to me and Charlie special, and the Hurt Business special. Like, we worked behind the scenes amongst each other to make sure everybody looked good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. I thought you and Charlie were a great team. It was a lot of fun. Me and Ron loved you guys. It was so much fun to work with you guys.
It was like some of those like some of the tours in Africa, some of the tours we went on, like Africa and things like that, like such great memories. Like I said, I can't think of any time where I wasn't enthusiastic about getting to work. Like,
yeah,
I wanted to be around everybody. And first coming in, there were a lot of surprise friendships formed when I got there, because again, we all have our perceptions when before you make it to the main roster, and then you get to the main roster, you're like, okay, well, this person seems like this or seems like that. And it's like, in your case in particular, in OVW, you would have told me that me and JBL was going to be, not me and JBL. If me and Bradshaw were going to be really good friends, I would have I don't see that happening. I would have never called it. If you said Mark Henry, yeah, I could kind of read Mark. Ron, so it's like there were so many people that I was like, wow, these people are way cooler than I thought. Now, the flip side is there were some people that are way not cooler than I thought.
Yeah,
but
there's always those.
Yeah, it's really surprising which direction you're drawn to. I mean, and why you're drawn to that. And in that locker room, you see the true people come out of their shells, and I think that's what you did. And you judge people the way that they judge you. So.
Right. I can say I've never been in a locker room that I didn't get along with. There might have been an individual or two that I favored less than most, but I can also say I don't hate anybody in the business. I don't think I have any enemies. There might be one or two people that I would go, if I never saw them again, I'm okay with that. But for the most part,
and that's life, Sheldon. There's guys that you would do, and I mean, I'm fortunate to have been in the business since 1968 and been around it since '65. There are people that I don't want to be with in my everyday life, and there are people that I couldn't get along with in my everyday life unless I had contact with them.
Right. Yeah. So I guess we all have that experience. In some cases, in some cases, though, it was very disappointing when you realize someone that you admire was not worth that admiration. Then other guys, you go, how did I miss this? How did I miss how great of a person this was? But I came to learn as I got older, a lot of people, a lot of newer talent, they respect the push, not necessarily the talent, knowledge, or the person. And it's not until they meet the person that they realize this isn't who I thought it was. Because it's, again, they respect the push first.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sheldon, thank you so much for all your time today. I've been looking forward to this since Mr. Brisco said that we're going to have you on. It's literally when I came back to work, back the last several years, I've always enjoyed, because I've always dressed with you and Bobby, and it's just and Corey. And it's just always it's fun. It's fun to go in there and just sit around and banter all day, just have a good time laughing and joking. And that to me has been so much fun about the business, and especially going back now to seeing guys like you and Bobby. No matter what,
I feel like no matter what, take away the performances and all that stuff and the fanfare, there's nothing better than being in the locker room and just enjoying your time with the boys. Like, I feel like that's what we all live for. Like, once that's what like, even now, like, I wish I was in the locker room with the WWE guys now, because those are my legit friends. And just to shoot the shit, I could care less if I'm on TV. I care less if I'm employed, but to be able to just go back there and hang out and just be cool with my friends, that's priceless.
And when you're away from the business, that's what you reflect. I mean, you love the crowd, you love the money, you love the work, but said the camaraderie, the friendship is what I know myself, what I valued the most and what I miss the most about the business.
Absolutely. But my friendship really goes the extra mile because no matter what my friends are doing, even if they're on national TV with Neil Cavuto, having an important conversation, it's not above me to call my friend and go, "Hey, you're doing a pretty good job there. I'm enjoying what you're doing." Now, if my friend isn't smart enough to silence his phone, that's not my fault. But hey, I call it with good intentions.
Story that I'm missing out on. What do you mean?
Oh my God, Jerry, I'm on with Neil Cavuto, and this is the main show. This is the main show. It's the #1 show, and this is a big deal to be on with Neil. He's the guy's running the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm on with Neil Cavuto, and they say phone's off. I go, yeah, of course. I always turn my phone off. That's when the old flip phones. So they're in the middle of this live television segment. I'm sitting there with not Alan Alda, Wayne Rogers, the guy from MASH, and Neil Cavuto. And I hear my phone ringing in my pocket, and I try to turn it off like that, but it's like the old flip phone, and you can't turn it off. And so finally, on live television, I had to pull my phone out, open it up, and it's Shelton Benjamin calling me. He had seen me on TV, and he called me. And he didn't hang up the phone when he realized it was ringing.
Hey, Jerry, I'm laying in my bed in Minneapolis. I remember I'm laying in my bed watching this. I'm watching him squirm and laughing. I'm watching him pull on his phone and laughing. And I remember thinking to myself, he's either going to be really mad or he's going to laugh really hard. But I'm not hanging up. I'm too far in.
I was so freaking. I'm like, I know he sees me, he won't hang up. And finally, I had to turn it off. And Neil Cavuto just makes a joke, goes,
"This is all live."
I go, apparently not.
This is all live.
Yeah, it was live. I thought it was taped, so I was just calling him to tell him I caught it. But then when I saw him squirming, I was like, "Wait, this is now."
When I opened up my phone, it said Shelton Benjamin. I just look at it, I go, "You bastard. You bastard." And he won't hang up. He just, I'm like,
And I'm laying in my bed laughing the whole time, watching him.
Nothing more uneasy than that phone ringing in a conversation.
Hey, but that never happened to him again, so I helped my buddy out.
It did. I promise you, I turned it off from then on.
Well, Sheldon, you know how those Texans. You know how those Texans are. You live around them. You got to brighten them up every once in a while. Thanks for telling the story on the Texan before we leave out of here, man. We appreciate your time today.
Hey, anything I can do to help. Anything I can do to help.
Well, Sheldon, hey, thank you. Appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. Like I watched the show a few times. I wanted to come on and just, clown around like we used to do in person, and we'll do again soon in person. So
yes, we will.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. I enjoyed it.